Hello and welcome back to our How to Paint series. Today we have kind of a fun little model to do here. We're actually going to be doing Blood Ravens in honor of the 20th anniversary of the Dawn of War series. And I figured we'd kind of take some bits from the Dark Angels pack because, as the meme goes, Blood Ravens are a little bit of thieves. So it only seems fair that, they have some scavenged bits. And we're going to jump right in with a nice undercoat of Abaddon Black. We're going to be doing like 90% of this model, I'd say, with this undercoat. There is a few little spots I don't want to touch, just because I want to save that for a nice layer of Rakarth flesh. And kind of, it's more difficult to build up from a dark color like that. So we'll try to leave those spots alone if we can. And if you're familiar with Blood Ravens, you'll know the kind of shoulder pads are a more bone color. And I also have another little spot that I isn't traditional heraldry, but it seems like some kind of fun, so I want to try it out. But we will leave that secret for the future. For now, we'll just work on getting this nice undercoat everywhere we can, and of course our paint is nice and thinned. As always, we don't want thick layers. That is very bad. Thick layers are the enemy. If you're a chaos enjoyer, they are the Imperial way. If you're a Imperial fan, that is heresy. A little something for both sides there. But we will do our best to avoid it. And I've already done this base, as you can probably see. I didn't plan on doing a whole bunch of different chapters. I originally planned on doing all these intercessors as just Dark Angels, so I went ahead and did a bunch of the bases with that in mind, and then things changed, and it's not like I could just scrape the entire thing off the base. That'd be a lot more work than it's really worth. So we're going to stick with it. I feel like a nice sand texture kind of fits these guys anyway. So we'll just roll the dice here. We'll kind of see how it ends up. And already I kind of forgot what I was gonna do. I wanted the kind of front of our helmet to be a brighter color, but I got a little bit of black on there, so we'll still do it. It's just gonna be kind of weirder to build that color back up. So if you're following along and you do it exactly the way I do, maybe try to avoid that. It's a little bit of a mistake there, but it's fine. We still want to avoid the shoulder pads. That's kind of the key thing. That's going to be where a lot of the Rakarth flesh will be going, and building up from a pure black is super annoying, so you want to avoid that if you can. And we just touch up the rest of the jetpack here. I'll kind of give it a once over. We'll get everything we can see. We might miss some spots here and there, but for the most part, I do want to get everything that's visible. And everything else is just going to be in the shadows, and we'll pretend that they're not there. I also do want to mention this is probably going to be a 2 or 3 part video, just because this guy's a little bit more detailed, and we're going to be using some more colors than we've done with the other ones. Instead of a nice like 2-tone, this is going to be like 3, 4, maybe 5 different shades, or colors rather. So it's gonna get pretty lengthy, and I don't really cut anything out. I don't want to steal that experience from you guys. So we're just gonna roll with it, and if it takes us 40 minutes or an hour or whatever, we'll keep it all in. And just make sure we get the underside of the backpack there. I always kind of missed it a little bit. Just generally, the entire behind the neck is kind of annoying to get, and the underside of these exhausts are a little bit tricky. But if you pay attention and you really get your brush in there, it does get more manageable. And we'll even touch up a little bit on that helmet just so it's one smooth color when we do go in to build that back up. I also want to mention, just because I don't really point it out in other videos, of course, as always, our model is already primed. I just use Vallejo air primer. You can brush it on, it's super easy. And you might be thinking, why don't I just use a like spray can or rattle can. Kind of a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it's more consistent. If I just do it by hand, I don't have to worry about getting like the real dusty effect you get if you mess up with that, or if your rattle can's been in the wrong temperature or something. So it's just a thing of consistency for me personally. It's a little bit more work. I do have to like brush a layer or two on, but I can do it inside. I don't have to worry about fumes. Any of that you normally have to do with a spray can. So it's just something I kind of prefer. But of course, if you prefer spray cans and you want to kind of batch prime whole armies at once, that is a very good option. So you do whatever you're comfortable with, and I'll just keep doing my thing. Either way, the end result's going to be the same. It's not something that's going to drastically change your model. It is just to kind of keep your paint from falling off, basically. Keeps it better adhered to your model. And overall, it does give you kind of a nice starting point in terms of color. Of course, you can pick a different shade of primer if you want. I just really like gray. It's a good neutral. And if I want to go darker, I can just do an undercoat of black. If I want to go lighter, I can keep going with that gray, take it to a white undercoat. It gives you plenty of options. So that's why I do the things I do. And I haven't mentioned that before, so I figured we would, kind of spell things out here for anyone curious. And I also do want to shout out, just because I want to get it out of the way kind of sooner rather than later, I do have a Patreon. Link is in the description. If you want to support my channel, feel free to check that out. Otherwise, just like, comment, subscribe. All of that helps me out very, very much. And, I'm always open and willing to receive you guys' feedback. It does mean a lot to me. Even if it's negative criticism, I'll take it. I just, it does help me kind of improve, whether it's good or bad comments. And as we kind of finish up here, we will be moving on to our next base color, which we're going to keep going with the main body here, just so we can kind of get that all out of the way. So we're going to be moving on to corn red. If you followed on with our Blood Angels, which was our last video, I believe, I did Mephiston red, so I wanted something just a little bit different this time. As much as I like Mephiston, and I think normally I'd probably do it as well with this, I do want kind of a little bit of differential in our color schemes, just so, while they're sitting on a shelf or on the table, I can kind of tell them apart at a glance, just by the kind of shade they are. And as always, nice and thin. We're going to apply this as our main base kind of color all over pretty much everything, except for the shoulder pads, as always. And we probably don't want this on the guns either. We want to leave those kind of more black. So if we can avoid getting any on those, that would be pristine, but no promises. And make sure we get the back of the legs very thoroughly. Sometimes I kind of mess up on that. And really want to focus underneath the power pack, jet pack, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. That's such a weird armor composition they have going on. Like, there's so many little bits and pieces. I forget the names of most of them. But it is technically a power pack for their suit of armor. Although I don't think it's ever mentioned in lore, or like there's ever really a scene that I've read where they do anything that is consequential to having a backpack, like a power pack. There's never a threat of them running out of energy. Like, that's just not a thing. If you're a fan of the Horus Heresy, and if you've read or you are reading that series, like the entire siege on Istvan, spoilers, I guess, but when one of these certain groups, we'll keep it as spoiler free as possible. When one of the groups is, on the planet and they're holding out after being betrayed, they're down there for like I think it's like a few weeks or maybe like a month or two, and they just don't mention that power's like a real thing. It's just not something that comes up. They talk about running out of ammo, and they're like running out of medical supplies. Power packs aren't a thing though. They don't mention those once, so I don't know. I really don't know. Just one of those little lore inconsistencies that kind of bugs me. But we won't read too much into it, I guess. Also, speaking of the books, I do want to mention Humble Bundle. Not that I'm affiliated with them in any way. I just like their stuff. They do have a bundle of Warhammer books on sale. It's like $18 for like 25 books, I think, is the minimum amount you can pay. And I don't know the quality of the books. I've kind of read some were good, some were bad kind of reviews. But overall, I mean, that's pretty good in terms of price. So definitely check that out if you want to get into the lore, or whether you want to continue diving, deeper into the lore. I would definitely kind of look at that as a good starting point. Otherwise, keep with the classics. Horus Heresy is a great point. I'm on book like 16 now, and I'm trudging along. There's like 60 books in the series, so I'm nowhere near done. But I'm excited. I'm excited. Every time I open up a new book, I get very excited. Especially when it's a chapter I like. And even when it's a chapter I know nothing about, I get really excited. Because it's just a whole book of me learning new things. And that's pretty fun. So we do want to get, if I can manage it without making a huge mess, we are coming in some weird angles here. The entire back there is still black. There's a little bit of white. I'm going to get in there as much as I can with this red. We'll get a little bit on the pauldrons, because of course we will. And we do want to just finish up with that base coat all over the front. And you do want to be careful, as always, don't go over your wet paint. Wait till it fully dries before you go back over it. Otherwise, you're going to get some pretty wacky buildup. And it's going to look really weird and oddly textured once it's dry. So don't do that if you can avoid it. I also want to mention this is part of a ongoing project that I'm doing. I want to do as many kind of chapters that I can. That includes successor chapters, obviously, with me doing Blood Angels, or sorry, Blood Ravens. Their names are too familiar. And that also includes like any heresy era legions. Like I want to do the Emperor's Children, but in their classic colors, not their chaos colors. And generally, just if you guys have any suggestions, or you want to see certain chapters painted, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm always taking recommendations. I always want to know what you guys want to see. And same goes with any models that you guys want to see me check out. Any factions, any general paints, just whatever you guys want to see. Feel free to shoot me a comment, or like PM me or something. My contact info is in my bio, so feel free to check that out. And just let me know, because if you're lucky, I might do it. And I see one little spot on this back here that I don't know if we can really reach too well, but it is. I think we got it. It was kind of hidden by that bolter back there, and I can't even really see it if I look for it, but it was like very white, so hopefully we got that cleaned up. And of course, when we get the arms, the underside, and the ends, just because that's very easy to miss. And so far we're doing pretty good with avoiding the shoulder pads. We've made a couple of mistakes, but overall it's looking pretty clean. And we just want to continue on. We're pretty much almost done with our two main colors. Once we do the shoulder pads, that's going to be kind of our third. And then the rest will just be all detail work. And that's probably how we're going to split the video up. I want to do all the base colors now, and then all the details are going to be the next episode. So if that's what you want to skip ahead to, feel free. Otherwise, just keep going. We're going to keep chugging along for another handful of minutes here, just as everything gets nice and finished off in terms of our base coats. And I'm sure you can tell if you know anything about our Blood Ravens, we are going to do a little bit of armor trim. It's going to kind of suck because we're going to do black armor trim on our more like tan parchment colored shoulder pads. So if we mess that up, it's going to be a really rough contrast to kind of fix. So here's hoping we don't horribly screw the pooch on that. But we'll do the best we can. And, you know, I'm not the best painter, but I've got a few models under my belt. I think we can manage as we kind of do some touch-up work. Just want to make sure we're fully done before I switch from red to anything else here. And we're almost perfect. And one last little run on that exhaust. There's always a spot that I miss. Every time I look, I just find something new. So we'll jump ahead here before I find too much to really whinge about. All right, so clean our brush off, nice and neat. We are coming to our kind of finished product already. This guy's coming along very nicely, and we're gonna close this up without peeking the microphone, hopefully. So our next color, you can do like a bone color if you want, like any of them, Ushanti bone or like a wraith bone. I kind of want to do Rakarth flesh. I haven't done this paint scheme before, as with like most of these that we're probably going to do. So I don't know how it's going to really look, but you know, I'm willing to give it a try. We'll find out, right? And as always, get our brush nice and wet so we can have a real thin palette here. I don't want to mix our paints up accidentally, so we're going to turn our palette a little bit. And I don't want to really get the sword in this, so we're going to be a little bit careful. Just want to get the inside of the shoulder pad as best as I can. If we get it on the trim, that's fine. We're going to go right over it with our next color, so it's nothing too crazy. And don't worry about spilling it on the arms. It's very easy to clean up. Again, going from a light color to a dark color is much easier than going from a dark color to a light color. So this is where, you know, you're allowed to be messy. And already I'm really liking that color. I don't know whether it shows up great on video, but it's very kind of natural in terms of what I want. So I think we're going to stick with that. I might do a wash or something over it just once we get closer to finished, but overall it's a really nice shade. And we'll go right back over. Because these layers are so thin, our paint dries really quickly. And there we are. So we have one more step here. And actually, let me switch brushes. I mentioned at the very start that there was another spot that I wanted to do with our Rakarth flesh, and we're going to showcase that now. We're going to be using a much smaller brush here. This is actually a brand new brush. I just opened the pack for it today, so hopefully it does as well and doesn't disappoint. We're going to get a little bit more paint on our palette, and I want to do this front helmet plate, like the grill. I think that kind of look cool if we do that with our Rakarth flesh. And we don't want to worry about getting the eyes or anything because that'll go. We'll go right back over it. Rather, is what I was trying to say there. But we will just apply this, and you can see it's a little bit more awkward of a buildup. Of course, we're coming from a darker color to a lighter color, so it's a little bit more awkward to do. But overall, it's looking pretty nice on there already. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm glad we made this decision. I say we as if it wasn't just me by myself, but you know, we'll make this a team effort. You guys helped, you know, moral support. And we'll get the other side of the face there. And perfect. I'll clean it up a little bit in between parts, but overall, that's looking pretty nice. Yeah, look at that. Then of course, you know, there's these little scrolls on the gun that we want to get. Nothing too crazy. And don't worry about making a mess with this. We'll do some cleanup with some black on the gun afterwards. And if you just use the side of your brush, it does kind of very cleanly get that whole thing there without really getting any of the surrounding area. Very nice and easy to do. So there's a nice little trick for you. I've shown enough, and I think every video, but I'm gonna keep saying it like it's new because I don't know whether you guys are just joining me or whether you're repeat viewers. So there you go. We're gonna end it here. Next time we will finish up a lot of the other details, and it's probably gonna be a 2-part thing. If I really want to stretch it, we can make it a 3-part, but I promise we'll try for 2. So with that being said, thank you guys very much for watching, and hopefully you'll join me in the next video.